Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Josephine Franklin, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Our topic today is 10 questions about Operation Prevention Resources. Following are a few technical notes of information to assist you during the webinar. If you have a technical problem during the broadcast, please call GoToWebinar attendee support at the toll-free number typed in red, 855-352-9002, and provide today's webinar ID that you see typed in red, 351-874-755. As you participate in the webinar today, we invite you to expand the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag webinar, NASSP webinar. You are also on Facebook at facebook.com/principles. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available as well as a PowerPoint on NASSP's website within 24 hours at nassp.org/webinar. Should you want a certificate of attendance for this webinar, go to nassp/webinar completed after today's presentation. Before we get to our main presentation, I'd like to introduce Allison Maurice, Child Nutrition Policy Analyst with the Food Research Action Center, also known as FRAC. Occasionally, NASSP must promote a sponsoring organization's program. Today, we're taking a few minutes to promote NASSP's relationship with FRAC, which works to improve public policies and public-private partnerships to eradicate hunger and undernutrition in the United States. Allison, tell us more about FRAC.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Josephine, for the introduction, and thank you to NASSP for hosting today's webinar and letting me have a few minutes to address all of you. Like she said, my name is Allison Maurice, and I'm a Child Nutrition Policy Analyst with FRAC. Much of my work is focused on ensuring low-income children have access to the school meals, but most importantly, the school breakfast program, because many low-income students really are not utilizing that important resource that they have. So if you can move to the next slide. To get us started, I'll quickly tell you a little bit about FRAC. We are a national nonprofit organization working to fight hunger and undernutrition through protecting important safety nets and ensuring that individuals are able to access these safety nets through our advocacy work. We accomplish this through conducting research, working with Congress and state government agencies to improve federal, state, and local public policies. We provide very targeted technical assistance and also serve as a clearinghouse and re-grant a lot of money to anti-hunger organizations at the state level who are very much more familiar with the landscapes in their communities. But we also do re-grant money directly to school districts through specific funding opportunities. So we're definitely coming at this issue from many different angles. You can proceed to the next slide. So what does eating have to do with academic success? I know many of you are probably wondering how I even got a slot in this webinar, but school meals, particularly school breakfast, is an often underutilized tool to improve student outcomes. It is no surprise that hungry students have a tougher time staying concentrated because they're thinking about food. I know many of you would sympathize with not being able to focus if we miss our lunch break and things like that. So next slide. So school breakfast is associated with better performance overall and improved attentiveness and memory. And research suggests that children who skip breakfast are less able to master the tasks necessary to do well in school. Further, children who eat breakfast at school, closer to class and test-taking time, perform better on standardized tests than those who skip breakfast or eat breakfast at home. I know many of you probably offer a morning snack or meal of some sort before a standardized test. So this is a strategy that you can actually use all year long, not just on test-taking days. Children who have eaten breakfast at school are less likely to cause distractions due to behavioral and disciplinary issues. Teenagers specifically experiencing hunger are more likely to be suspended from school and have difficulty getting along with other children and establishing friendships. Students who participate in school breakfast exhibit decreased behavioral and psychological problems and have lower rates of absence and tardiness. And providing students with breakfast in the classroom is associated with fewer disciplinary office referrals, particularly during that morning time. And at the bottom of the slide, you can see our research brief on how breakfast supports learning. Next slide. So every year, FRAC releases a report that looks at nation and statewide trends in the school breakfast program. And we look at free and reduced price school breakfast participation to determine how many low-income students school breakfast is reaching nationally and in each state, using the ratio to free and reduced price lunch participation as a benchmark. Because there is broad participation in the lunch program by low-income students across the states, it's a useful comparison by which to measure how many students could and should be benefiting from school breakfast every day. So as you can see on the slide, for every 100 low-income children that participated in lunch, only 56 participated in school breakfast. So you should definitely check out our report and see where your state ranks among the others. And we will actually be releasing an updated report in just a few weeks that will look at participation trends from the 16-17 school year. Next slide. So there are many reasons that students don't take advantage of school breakfast, and many of which are out of their control. Late bus arrivals and long commutes, the reduced price co-payment, students not wanting to be singled out as the poor kid, are all reasons that students don't participate. But there are ways for school breakfast to be offered so that the barriers are eliminated and more students can access this important morning meal. Next slide. So serving breakfast after the start of the school day using a breakfast in the classroom, grab and go, or second chance model have all shown to increase participation. And it makes sense. The meal is brought directly to students rather than them having to go seek it out. Grab and go and second chance are particularly popular service models for middle and high school students because they often aren't hungry first thing in the morning. So serving them a breakfast after first period allows them ample time to arrive to class on time and socialize before school while still getting them that nutrition that they need early in the day. Next slide. So establishing a successful breakfast after the bell program requires strong principal leadership, as principals really are the ones that set the school vision and cultivate staff support for the program. With secondary school principals in mind, FRAC and NASSP teamed up to develop a toolkit that can help principals implement this new breakfast service model in their schools. The toolkit includes tips, sample outreach materials, event planning materials, and even sample stakeholder surveys to see how the program is going after it is implemented. Next slide. This slide shows some of the sample materials included in the toolkit. The red image is a sign that you can modify and post in your school so that students know where the breakfast will actually be served. And the image with the forks and the fruit is a sample PowerPoint presentation you can use when educating your staff as to why you want to make this change. Next slide. There seems a few of my slides might be missing, but I do want to go ahead and just give a nod that if you still aren't convinced, I definitely encourage you to take a look at a report that FRAC and NASSP did together in 2015. We surveyed 105 secondary school principals who have operated breakfast after the bell in their schools, and 87% of them believe other principals should consider launching a similar program. And if the slide were up, there would be a list of many benefits that the principals saw, including 46% of them saw improved attentiveness and concentration. And let's see, and 18% observed fewer disciplinary referrals. So there's definitely support for it among secondary school principals. So I definitely encourage you to check out that report because it does share a lot of good tips and feedback from other school principals. And then I also want to just do a shout out real quick that National School Breakfast Week is coming up, and that will be happening March 5th through 9th. And it would be great if you could talk to your school nutrition director and see if there are any fun activities planned to get students more excited about school breakfast. It might even be a good opportunity to pilot offering breakfast to students in their first period class, or to see how it goes, or having a cold breakfast available during a morning break or in between periods. I think one thing that is good to remember is that as you do increase your school breakfast participation, your federal reimbursements are going to increase as well. So really getting students, ensuring that students have access to this program not only is going to help them with their learning outcomes and nutritionally, but it's also going to help with the financial viability of your nutrition program. So these offering breakfast after the bell really is a best practice for getting those participation numbers up and helping the nutrition department stay in the green. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'm definitely available to, talk one-on-one, answer via email, whatever you would like. And I can be reached, you can find my contact info at frac.org or at amaurice@frac.org or at 202-986-2200. And I thank everyone for their time today and to NASSP for having me here. And I will hand it back to Josephine.
Right. Thank you, Allison. Okay, we are going to move forward and go back to our overall presentation, 10 questions about operation prevention resources. And during the webinar, the presenters invite you to, if you have questions, to post them. And I am going to transition over and give the controls over to Sumner. I'm hitting this, okay? Okay, so I'm going to introduce our presenters for today, Robin Porter, Lauren Deneau, and Robert Sumner. So should you have questions as you are listening to their presentation, please submit them using the question box on the GoToWebinar panel, and we will have our presenters address your questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, and now I will turn this over to our presenters. Have I done that?
You got it, okay.
Sumner, are you there? Here. Am I hitting this? Robin, are you there? Do you suggest?
Hello, can you hear us? Hello? Computer audio.
Control of the presentation at this point?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Not sure what just happened. That was very odd.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody. My name is Lauren Deneau. I oversee the Operation Prevention Program on behalf of Discovery Education. I am so pleased to be here today to present Operation Prevention to you all. I'm going to be doing a portion of the program, or the portion of the webinar today, and I also want to introduce Robin Porter.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us today. My name is Robin Porter. I'm one of the directors of curriculum here at DE. I'm a content lead for Operation Prevention. I'm part of a group at Discovery Education known as the Digital Instruction Group, and we create all of the curriculum and content and research and assessment for all of our programs and partnerships and services around the globe. I've worked in education for 30 years. This is my 30th anniversary year. I started out as a middle school educator, so shout out to all the middle school principals out there. And I've been working with Discovery in one capacity or another for about 15 years. So I'm very glad to be here today and to share the program with you.
Next, I want to introduce Robert Suman. The Operation Prevention Program was piloted last year by Norwin Middle School, and Robert is the principal. Do you want to say hi, Robert? Bobby there? Okay, I'm just going to move forward from here, just knowing that we're having some technical difficulties. So before we get started, I wanted to just give a little bit of background as to why we're titling this 10 Questions About Operation Prevention Resources. This program has been around now for about 2.5 years or so, and over the course of the program's existence, we have gotten lots and lots of questions from educators like yourself, administrators, et cetera. And so we've compiled them into this webinar that poses the question and then asks the question. So as Josephine mentioned, we want to make this as interactive as possible. There's going to be a couple of opportunities where we're going to be able to ask you some questions. So we'll want your input, and you can put your answers in the chat box. But also feel free to type in questions as we go. Just, we want to make sure that this is as interactive as possible. Okay, so as I mentioned, our first question that we have here is, what is Operation Prevention? So Operation Prevention is a partnership between the Drug Enforcement Administration and Discovery Education. It was launched in September 2016, and this partnership really is all about educating students. We'll talk a little bit about why the program came to be in a second, but this 3-year partnership that we've created with the Drug Enforcement Administration is meant to be a preventative measure. We know that students as young as elementary or middle school are being exposed to opioids, and so this program is really meant to speak to them, the elementary, middle, and high school students. This is a comprehensive, no-cost program that we've created in partnership with the DEA. What's great about this program is you can go online today to operationprevention.com and download all of these resources. There are no strings attached. So really excited to be bringing this content to you. We'll go to the next slide. So the next question that we have is, why was Operation Prevention created? Many of you may be in communities that are impacted more than others as it relates to the opioid epidemic. But this is an epidemic that you can hardly go a single day without hearing about it on the news or in the newspaper. It really truly knows no bounds. This is unlike many epidemics that have come before it. It does not matter socioeconomically who you are, which part of the country. It goes across race and age and all of the above. And so it is truly a problem that our communities are facing. And so, there are lots and lots of statistics that we can look at that really illustrate how severe this epidemic is. But we've selected 3 that we think are most relevant to this program and kind of setting the stage for why we created this program. So this is kind of that interactive portion. I'm going to ask a question, and then I want you all to type in your best guesses in the chat window. And Josephine, before we reveal the answer, if you could just read out some of those answers, that would be fantastic, and then I'll reveal the true answer. So the first question is, how many people die each day in the United States as a result of an opioid overdose? So type in your answers, your best guesses. Josephine, anybody popping in with some guesses there?
I am not seeing anything yet.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and reveal the answer then. So the answer is that 91 people die each day as a result of an opioid overdose. So that to me is pretty staggering. Think about how many people that is every single day, and this is specifically to an opioid overdose. That number has risen to more than 4 times since 2000. So as you can tell, this is something that is continuing and actually growing as a problem. The next one is finish this sentence. 1 in blank, we're looking for a number here, 1 in blank teens have admitted to misusing prescription medication at least once. If you all could type in your responses. Any guesses there, Josephine?
No, I'm not seeing any.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, so I'll again reveal the answer. So the answer is 1 in 6 teens have admitted to misusing prescription medication at least once. So if you think about how many students you have in your school, and think about 1/6 of them. So that would be how many students have actually experimented or used prescription medications on a regular basis, or misuse prescription medications on a regular basis. The last one that we have is what % of people who use heroin first misuse prescription opioids? I think we accidentally revealed the answer there, so I'm just going to give it to us. But the answer there is 80% of people who use heroin first misuse prescription opioids. So that is a really important statistic because it tells us that that there is a misconception that prescription opioids are, because they're legal, are good for you or harmless or are not something that someone should be concerned about. But what we are finding, and this is why we want to start this program early, is that there are these misconceptions, and therefore we want students as early as elementary school to understand that if they get hooked on a prescription opioid, it is something that can lead to a heroin addiction, which, when you mention heroin, that is obviously something that people do not want to mess with. So those are some of our key statistics that we wanted to bring to you. So we talked a little bit about what the program is and why we created the program. So I want to pass it back over to Robin to talk about who we created this program for.
Thanks, Lauren. So this is obviously a very unique program for us at Discovery and for all of you for many reasons. Most of the stuff that we create, the programs that we create at Discovery are created really for teachers and for students. But what we saw as we did all of our research is that this is really something that's impacting the entire community. And so it was important from us from early on to create resources that hit on all of the stakeholders. So we have resources, as you'll see, we'll dig in, that help educators. And when we say educators, obviously we have resources for teachers, guidance counselors, and administrators. We have resources for students, and that starts as early as Lauren mentioned, as 3rd grade and all the way up through 12th grade. And then we also have resources for the family and community. It was very important from early on that we create resources that could begin life-saving conversations and could help families really understand the epidemic and be able to notice things or have conversations with their children. So you'll see as we dig into the resources a little bit that all of these stakeholders have assets that are targeted directly for them.
Okay, so what we would like to do at this point is hand it back over to Bob, or hopefully hand it over to Bob. If I could just mention to Josephine, I just spoke to Bob, and he's saying that on his end, it's showing that he's...
No, wrong one. Quick his. What's his thing? Oh, he's good. He's up now. He's up now. Okay. So why can't we hear him? Because she muted her. clicked her instead of him at first.
Is it still going? Can we do this? You gotta walk up there and show her exactly. Speaking. That's wrong. Or more. But not there. Somewhere. Click this. Yeah, those two are needed.
One of our internal mandates, we're muted?
We were just muted. But we are, I think, unmuted now?
Yeah. No. Okay. We can hear you now.
Great. Okay, so picking right up, one of the other questions that we frequently get is the education standards that were used to guide development. And one of our internal mandates at Discovery is really anything that we create is guided by or aligned to a body of standards so that it can be effectively used by our educators. For this specific program, there were obviously several content areas that this really linked to. And you can see here that these are the standards that we have aligned our resources to for this program. So we've got next generation science standards, our health education standards, Common Core ELA, and then we've also aligned some standards to the social emotional learning competencies. You can actually see within the specific assets, and hopefully some of you or your educators will dig into those assets on operationprevention.com. You can actually see on the educator guides within each one of those assets the specific standards that we align to for each one of the specific resources. The next question we frequently get, particularly from administrators, is how long their teachers have to dedicate to this. We know that the curriculum is very packed, and often there's little time for things that are not necessarily mandated. And so to that end, we really designed this program to be incredibly flexible. As I've mentioned, there's several assets that are part of that program, and they're very easily organized by grade band and content area on the site. And so educators can really pick and choose the assets that are most appropriate for the amount of time that they have or for their class or for their particular, the body of their students. And then even within those assets, they can still pick and choose what fits the class best. A number of our digital lesson bundles that we'll introduce later are designed to be done over a 2 or 3 day period, but you'll be able to see that educators can pick the specific slides or the specific content within those assets that make the most sense for their specific classroom situation. We've seen schools do this for once a week. We've seen an intense period of time for a full week. We've seen it by semester, full year. So there's really flexibility built within the program.
I'd like to hand it to Bob. Any chance Bob is there? We wanted to pass this along to him if possible, but it looks like he's still muted. So we'll keep going.
Okay, great. So now we wanted to just talk a little bit about the content strategy behind the program. At Discovery, we do try to do a fairly long discovery and research process before we dig into a program. We kind of call it slowing down to speed up, so that we spend a lot of time learning about how teachers are teaching a program and certainly doing research around the particular topic itself. And really what we designed is for the program to do 2 overall things. One is to help to inform, and when we say inform, we want to inform educators, we want to inform students, and we want to inform parents. And then we also want to be able to empower those students and parents to do certain actions. So you can see here the list of things that we really looked at that we wanted to ensure that students knew and would be able to do by the end of the program. Something as basic as what opioids are. That term is in the news so frequently, but what does that even mean? When we talk about misusing them, we wanted to ensure that there was an understanding about what that meant. Information about the opioid epidemic, the science behind what happens to their brains and bodies so that they can become really informed and make informed decisions based on what they know happens to their brains and bodies. What it means for physical dependence and addiction. We recognized and revealed that there were a lot of facts and misconceptions around this, so a number of the assets really focus on those facts and misconceptions. We also took a look, as you'll see, at what happens to the community. What's the economic impact on a community or the social impact of a community of this epidemic? And then at the elementary age, we really sort of start the program by introducing students, as you'll see, to what is a medicine, and why do we use medicine, and why is it so important to safely use medicine the way it's prescribed and to store medicine safely as well. So all of that comes under the types of things that we were looking to do in the inform bucket. And then in the empower bucket, we really wanted students, as I said, to be able to make informed decisions based on what they learned. We wanted all of the stakeholders to be able to recognize signs of someone struggling, to know how to get help and where to get help, and to be able to kickstart some really life-saving conversations around this problem. Lauren mentioned that this was a 3-year program, and so this has really given us a great opportunity to dig in and select a focus area for each one of those 3 years. So in year 1, you'll see from the assets that we really focused on the science and personal health issues. In year 2 is where we took a look really at the community impact and the public health issues. And then in year 3, which is just about to kick off within the next month, we'll be focusing much more of the assets on specific prevention strategies. And then in terms of grade levels, we've talked about this a little bit. This goes from elementary all the way up through to high school. So you can see here, these are the assets. This is almost like a table of contents that's organized by the specific grade band. And we will dig into these assets a little bit later. But when you go on to Operation Prevention, as I said, you'll see a bucket for elementary, for middle, and for high, and all of these assets will be organized like that. So what are the resources? That's really the million-dollar question. This is a list of resources that we will be going over today. Digital lesson bundles, activities, a self-paced module, our virtual field trips, and our parent toolkit. I also want to note that there is a Spanish website that mirrors the English website that you can get to directly from operationprevention.com. And so obviously that was created to be able to help our Spanish learners.
This is Robert.
Oh, there you are, Bob.
Yep, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we went back in a different route, and I'm glad to be on board. I apologize.
Great. Since we're gonna take a pause here and let Bob sort of tell his story. Bob, do you want to just let the folks know, since we have you back on the line, give them a little bit of background about your community, how the community's been impacted by the epidemic, why you chose Operation Prevention. We'll go through some of those things, and then we'll hop back into the presentation.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks for having me on board this afternoon. A little bit about myself. I'm a building principal of a middle school that it's a rural community right outside of Pittsburgh, PA, about 20 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. And my middle school consists of grades 7 and 8, and I have about 845 students here. So we average around 420 per class each given year. So just that was a little demographics, but a little bit about us and why we chose to jump on board with Operation Prevention. First, Dr. Kerr, our superintendent, came to me looking for some answers on what we could do here as a district to support our student body. And we realized that not only is this a national epidemic, but more importantly, it was locally here in Westmoreland County where we reside. We had lost 5 recent graduates in that calendar year, which prompted us to begin some conversations administratively to take a closer look at what we were doing here currently and what we could do a better job of being proactive in a manner to help fight this battle of this epidemic. So we kept using the term, we look at this through 2 lenses. We can either be proactive or we can be reactive. And our committee that we formed chose to take a proactive approach, and we needed to put something, get the ball rolling and get moving. So one of the biggest questions that when we share our story with people or I visit other school districts, one of the biggest questions is often asked of us that why did we choose to select the middle school as our pilot program and the starting point? And I'd like to highlight a couple of those factors and why we chose the middle school. First of all, we all realize middle school kids are quirky to begin with, and I don't like to use that term, I use it loosely, but they're going through a lot of changes in their lives, socially, emotionally, physically, mentally. They're trying to find out who they are. And also, this is the age where they're exposed to, and you start to participate in a lot of high-profile sports and activities, which we all know as parents and adults that injuries often occur that result in serious injuries such as surgeries. And with surgeries, we know comes pain management and prescribed opioid medications. So this is a time in their life where they're starting to get exposed to those meds. And also, it's a prime age for wisdom teeth retractions and also leading to prescribed medications. So we felt that this was a good point before these kids get into the high school and they start to really open up and be able to drive and go places and to parties and start their own networking. So we felt that the middle school was a good layer to begin. And one of the statistics that we drive behind is, 60% of all drug overdoses are directly linked to prescribed opioid medications. So we felt the earlier we could start that conversation with our kids, the better. So I hope that gives you a little identity on why we elected to go this route here at Norwin.
Great. Thanks so much, Bob. That's so great to hear, and it's always so helpful to hear from someone directly in the field.
Sure.
So we're going to jump back into the presentation and just kind of do a little bit of a walkthrough of some of the assets that you'll find on the Operation Prevention site and give you a little bit of insight, and we have a couple of screencasts to share. The first one is a digital lesson bundle, and we actually have several digital lesson bundles for each one of the grade bands on the site. Digital lesson bundle is a signature asset here at Discovery Education, and it really combines the pedagogy of a traditional lesson plan with the power of digital media and multimodal media. And so you can see on here that there are for each one of these digital lesson bundles, you'll see two specific assets. One is a PowerPoint student-facing presentation, and the other is an educator guide that helps educators navigate through that presentation. We chose PowerPoint because it was platform agnostic, and it gives educators the opportunity to use the digital lesson bundles easily no matter what technology that they have. All of these digital lesson bundles are standards aligned, as we kind of talked about. They're broken into class periods, all designed to be incredibly flexible. We give specific time suggestions and materials lists on there like would be in a traditional lesson plan. And they're really designed to create incredibly high student engagement. And we will do a screencast where we walk you through one of the lesson plans so you can see how we have incorporated beautiful graphics and imagery and video and some interactive components into them. So here we'll just walk very quickly through some of the digital lesson bundles and give you an example of what some of them are designed to do. The elementary digital lesson bundle is called Proactive Prevention, as you can see here on the screen, and we've talked about a little bit. This really begins to introduce young students to how medications work in their bodies. They actually see imagery of a prescription bottle, and they see the anatomy of a prescription bottle so that they can learn the reason behind each one of the things that's on that prescription and why it's so important for them to follow it safely. There's also a couple of classroom activities that accompany those that are part of the site. For our middle school digital lesson bundle, we've got two. One focuses on science and the other one focuses on community. We're going to actually do a screencast for the first one that's very science-focused, but in that one that's science-focused, we really focus on introducing students to endorphins and the endorphin release, how that relates to opioids, and then how that impacts both in the short term and the long term their specific body systems. And then at the end of that lesson, they create a social media campaign with one of the specific takeaways that they've learned. In high school, the digital lesson bundles, again, follow that same pathway where we have one that's very science and health focused and the other one that's more focused on the community. For the high school digital lesson bundle, we focus a lot on facts and misconceptions. There's authentic stories in there of real teens who have been faced with specific situations and decisions related to opioids, and students learn the science behind why they've made some of the decisions that they've made and then the impact of those decisions as well. So this is a screencast. I just wanted to show you a little bit about one of these digital lesson plans might look like. This is obviously the PowerPoint presentation. There's beautiful imagery in here. These are all very inquiry focused. So in the educator guide, teachers are given specific questions to help students really uncover and go through some of their own misconceptions. You could see an image in there of a healthy brain versus one that's on opioids. There's a video in there. And again, you can begin to see imagery, beautiful imagery that we were able to get from NIDA, which is the National Institutions on Drug Abuse. the healthy systems of the body, and there's a whole series that students go through in terms of learning about those systems. And then again, there's long-term and short-term impacts. There's a lot of activities built into those educator guides to really get the most out of these images. The next asset that we wanted to walk through was a self-paced module. The self-paced module is designed for both middle and high school students, and this is really one of our favorite assets to create at Discovery because it's completely driven by students. It's a student-facing asset where they have the opportunity to put the learning into their own hands. The self-paced modules are created to last about 30 to 40 minutes in time. They have built-in assessments, both formative and summative assessments, as well as some confidence rankings where students have an opportunity to rank their own knowledge and confidence in the specific topic, both at the beginning and the end of the module. And then there's a great deal of exposition throughout. This specific self-paced module follows the authentic stories of 3 teens. Students meet Stefan, who is a football player who has been faced with an injury. He's prescribed opioids by a doctor, and the prescription runs out. But he really likes the feeling of the opioids, the feeling that he gets. And so he begins to look for other ways to get those opioids. And so in that story, students learn the science behind what happens to Stefan's body and why he becomes physically dependent. And then it leads to the decisions that he makes along the way. They also meet Haley, who, with her friends, they bring opioids, prescription opioids from their parents' medicine cabinets. They begin to take those, and it goes through what happens to one of the girls in her friend group who continues to take those opioids. And then in the third story, they meet Mia, whose boyfriend is taking heroin, and she's very curious about that. And it follows the story of what happens to the two of them as they go through their cycle of addiction and then also begin the recovery. At the end of the module, students are given specific resources of places that they can go, signs that they could look for in friends, things that they could talk about with their friends to try to be helpful, and then specific resources if they know someone who is struggling. And this is a sort of a short, this is Stefan's story. He actually tells the story from his own words about what happens to him, so it's very authentic. This is what we call a click and reveal, where students begin to uncover what happens with endorphins and what happens when dopamine is released and how opioids really mimic the natural endorphins in our body. And so again, they move through that interactive on their own, as you can see here. And then it moves to a specific flip card interactive. These are the specific terms and words that Stefan uses in his story, and they learn the science behind those. And this is one example of one of our TEIs, our technology-enhanced items, where students assess themselves. And in this particular question, they're identifying what's true about the science behind Stefan's story. The parent toolkit is something we've talked about a little bit. This has just become a really important part of our program, and I know Bob's going to talk about this a little bit. This is what we talked about that we've created for families and communities. It's a PDF resource that can be downloaded and reproduced. There's discussion points and role-playing guides, myths and misconceptions, and specific refusal techniques. And this is one of the assets on the site that's also available in Spanish. And so I know, Bob, this is something that you've worked with your community on and something that you've used at your parent nights. And I wondered if you wanted to spend a few moments talking about how you've utilized this asset.
Yeah, not a problem at all. I'd like to take one step back, though, from previous slide, and I apologize that I come on late, so I hope I don't repeat. But you were talking about all the components that were available for teacher usage to implement the program. It is extremely user-friendly, and that was one of the biggest selling points in the components that we, as a committee, when we were analyzing different programs, that we felt that this was the best fit for our student body and provided the, the most substantial value for us. The biggest factor I would tell everybody who was looking at this and looking for some program to put into your school district would be that this is not a one-size-fits-all program. Some of them, are packaged that you have to follow verbatim. But this is one that we sat down, we provided our teachers some professional development time to sit and analyze our current curriculum side by side with that of the Operation Prevention to determine what would be the best fit for 7th grade and which would be the best fit for 8th. So we didn't take it all and force it upon them. We took our time, gave them a day or two to really analyze it, and we kind of cut and pasted what we felt would fit our existing curriculum. So that's something that I did want to, share with you. As far as the parent toolkit, after we did select this program to install here at Norwood Middle School, our committee felt that we wanted to unveil this program and what we were going to teach the children in our district. So we wanted to provide an evening where we invited parents and community members at large to come out to a big forum in our auditorium. We invited the DEA, the FBI office, the county coroner. So we made it a big drug presentation. And to encapsulate everything, we concluded with our three teachers, my health phys ed teachers, where we instituted the program, presented the things that we were going to share and educate their children about. So they had a full awareness. And one of the big talking points when parents left there was the actual parent toolkit. A lot of them came there that evening knowing that that was something that we had to complement the program. As a parent myself of three teenage kids, I find it useful myself. Holding discussions about drug education and with your children is not an easy task. Teaching refusal skills to your kids and knowing what and where your kids are, where they're at, who they're hanging out with, monitoring your own medicine cabinets at home. And one of the telling pieces of all of this in the end, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, is, it's not my child. My child wouldn't do that. But unfortunately, the 5 kids that we lost here at Norwin in the past calendar year all came from upper echelon families. So I think the parent toolkit was one of the biggest components that parents were pleased with when they left that evening.
Thank you so much, Bob. We really appreciate that, you sharing your experience. This is Lauren. Again, I'm going to talk about a couple of additional resources that we have. One being our live virtual field trips. So we have 2 of these for the program. Before I explain specifically what they are for Operation Prevention, I'll give a little bit of background as to what a virtual field trip is. Discovery Education has been doing virtual field trips for many, many years now. And the reason why we started doing them is that we know that students are getting out of the classroom less than maybe when you or I were in school. And therefore, they're not getting some of the experiences that they would otherwise be getting by leaving the classroom. So these virtual field trips are about 30 to 45-minute experiences that we stream live on operationprevention.com or some of our other program websites. And it gives kids the opportunities to meet people that they wouldn't otherwise meet, go places that they wouldn't otherwise go, or experience things that they wouldn't otherwise experience. And this is all done in the classroom through these virtual field trips. So when we first will launch a virtual field trip, it will be streamed live, but after that, all of them are archived and available on the website. So that's a little bit of background about what a live virtual field trip is. We've done 2 so far for Operation Prevention. The first one that we did, we hosted at a high school in Northern Virginia. It was a panel discussion, Q&A, town hall style virtual field trip where we had students asking questions of experts. We had some medical experts. We had some folks from the DEA join us, a young woman who was in recovery from heroin addiction, and it gave kids the opportunity to ask questions, which it went tremendously well. It is a great resource, and we really focused that one on the science of addiction, the brain and body component. The second one that we did, we just hosted back in October from Huntington, West Virginia. Huntington, West Virginia is one of the communities in our country that is truly struggling with the opioid epidemic. We didn't take students there to just show them what the opioid epidemic has done to a community, but instead to really show them that, to introduce them to the people in this community who are most influential, the people who are inspiring others, who are working really hard for their communities to make their situation better. We met many, many different individuals, one being this young lady that you see on the screen right now. Her name is Haley. Both of her parents are addicted to heroin, and she now lives with her grandfather and is just a truly remarkable teen. We learned so much about her situation previous to moving in with her grandfather. One of the things that she told us was that for a single year, she didn't sleep in the same place twice. While she was with her parents, they were moving her from place to place. Oftentimes, she would be forced to sleep in the home of a drug dealer. I mean, truly, this young woman's life was very difficult. But she is a true inspiration. She spends her time after school with addicts who are trying to get clean. So there's so much that students can learn from this virtual field trip. And really, what we wanted students to know is that while this epidemic may seem much bigger than they are, they themselves can have an impact in their own community. So it is a wonderful resource. There are activities that go along with both of our virtual field trips that teachers can use before the virtual field trip to get the conversation started, and then also to keep the conversation going after they watch the virtual field trip. So there's those activities as well. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you all about is our high school video challenge. We all know that peer-to-peer learning is incredibly powerful. Most of the resources that we've presented to you today are items that aid teachers or parents in having the conversation, directing the information to the students. But this high school video challenge is very unique in the sense that it asks teens to create something, to create a 30 to 60 second public service announcement. And the message needs to be about the dangers of opioid addiction, and it's meant to be directed at their peers. So if your students could give their peers a piece of advice or deliver a particular message, what would it be? And so this is a really great way to get kids engaged in this topic as well. In addition to the fantastic experience that just comes from being part of the video challenge, we offer prizes for the students after we judge all of the videos. Our first place winner gets $10,000, and then we have additional cash prizes. During the judging process, we narrow all of the videos down to the top 10, and then the public votes on a People's Choice Award winner. So that challenge is open now. It's available to high school students between now and March 20th is the last day that they can participate. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what sort of results have we had with this program? And I'm going to let Bob talk to their experience as well. But what I want to say is that since 2016, since September 2016, when we launched this program, about 2 million students have been reached by this program. And that to us says that these resources are incredibly needed at this time. We know that some schools are taking it upon themselves, similar to Norwin, as Bob had mentioned, taking it upon themselves to bring this curriculum into their schools, knowing that their students need to hear these messages. But then there are some states, and you should look into your own, that are starting to require prevention materials being integrated into the classroom. So a 2 million student reach in the first, since 2016 is pretty remarkable. I do want to hand it over to Bob again to just kind of talk to the experience that their school has had since implementing it, what sorts of impact it has had in the school.
Okay, sure. Well, I can tell you this, in our second year now, upon completion of our first year, we were very pleased with that outcome and the impact that it had on our students. We sat down with our health and phys ed teachers who are actually in the trenches each day teaching this course and this subject. And the thing that we kept hearing, and it was resonating, was the dialogue and the classroom interactions that take place were very strong, and they were eye-opening for many of our kids. You often hear on the news how bad drugs are, or it's a problem, but when they're able to sit down and the teachers can take them through the scope and sequence of some of this curriculum and really go into depth, it was eye-opening. Teachers felt as though it helped secure a new sense of awareness to the epidemic for the kids and family. I got email correspondence from many parents after we completed our year one pilot, telling me how thankful they were for us to, number one, educate their kids, and how it has prompted them just at their dinner table, the conversations that are stemming as a result of what they're learning and the exposure they're getting, the new things that they had no idea actually existed. and what drugs can truly do to you. So it is powerful. Again, it's a little different than what we were normally teaching. We were only scratching the surface in a normal drug and alcohol curriculum here in our health classes. But when we were able to take this and enlarge our curriculum in more depth, talking about the science behind it, like you mentioned earlier in your slides, it takes it naturally to another level. So, you know, after year one, our committee actually sat down again and we established a 10-question, we kept it short, a 10-question survey that we sent out to our entire student population, parents, via an email blast. So it was very easy to do. And we wanted to obtain and measure some of the attitudes and the impressions that Operation Prevention here at our school had on how it was implemented. So actually our first question was talking about, do you believe that the Operation Prevention curriculum introduced education and awareness to the students in a good and in a conducive manner? And 78% of the people said very well. They were excited about it, and they thought we did a fabulous job of introducing it, because kids come to us just like they do with any other subject, whether it be algebra or geometry. You know, some grasp it very well and others do not, and it's the same with this particular curriculum. Some had a firm understanding, others had very little. So, you know, we welcome some of the other things that they offered in the survey to us, and feedback to us moving forward was they welcome more opportunities to learn about it, whether it be us holding more parent meetings, packets coming home from school, and two other things. They thought it was informative and eye-opening, and lastly, they asked us, and this is coming from parents in the community, they want us to expand it to other grade levels. So over the summer, our committee met, and we decided this year they instituted it in our 5-6 building, which is intermediate, and we also put it into our 10th grade health classes at our high school. So we now have it being done at an elementary, a middle, and a high school level. In addition, we also established a district-wide Operation Prevention Advisory Committee, and that's made up of administrators, teachers, parents, and community members at large. And we meet once a month to look at new topics, things that we can do here in our own district, things that we can offer kids and parents. And actually, in 2 days, this Friday, I'm hosting Operation Prevention Drug Awareness Day in my school, where I have 3 guest speakers coming in, including one being a person in recovery. So we're looking to make this a profound effort to educate our kids. So I would score this on a 10, 1 out of 10 as a new program. It's something that we really are appreciative of getting our hands on.
Thank you so much, Bob. We really appreciate that. I know we wanted to have a couple of minutes for questions, so I'm going to just to the very end and thank everyone for attending. The slide that we're skipping over is just a how to get started slide. You can find everything that you need at operationprevention.com. We love to hear questions. We'd love to hear from teachers if they have feedback. So please don't hesitate to go to email us at operationprevention.com. I'm going to start over. You can email us at operationprevention@discovery.com. We'd love to hear from you there. And I wanted to ask Josephine if there are any questions that have come in along the way.
Yes, we do have a question here about the video challenge. And the question is it limited to high schools, or I heard Bob mention he had some involvement on the elementary and middle school level. So are they middle schoolers allowed to participate in the video challenge?
So specifically for the video challenge, we limit to high school students. So that's students who are in grades 9 through 12, and they have to be over the age of 13. There are rules on the website for more information on that. We have heard that there are schools who love this idea so much that they run their own video challenge for middle schoolers, because this is such an engaging way of getting kids to really interact with this and fully understand the material and the message that we're trying to send.
Thank you. Another question is concerning partnerships with the community. And Bob, perhaps you can help answer this question. Have you had an opportunity to partner, say, with the police department or the mayor's office, fire department, in the efforts to advance this program?
Yes, we haven't done so yet at this point, but that has been dialogue in our our district-wide committee meetings on how we can grow the program through partnerships. We already partner prior to this program coming in. St. Vincent College, which is a local university here, they come in and do some. They have some guest speakers that we utilize through their program. So that's just one minor partnership that we have. We are very strong ties with our local police department, and we are going to start maximizing these people to come into our schools and to help facilitate and foster the same message. So the more people and the more programs we have on board, we feel, it can only help us.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate the information that you shared with us today. So I thank Robin, Lauren, and Robert. And I'd like to advance just one more slide, if I might, to extend an invitation to our audience to join your colleagues for the 2018 National Principals Conference, sponsored by NASSP, July 11th through the 13th, 2018 in Chicago. If you'd like to learn more about the conference and register at the address shown on this slide, please go to www.principalsconference.org. Thank you all so much for joining us today for our webinar. And thanks to the Discovery and their team. That concludes our program for today.